Is the transportation, excuse me, let's start with the tuition. Is the fix, air quotes, in 493 enough on the tuition issue?
I think that's going to depend upon the leeway that the sending district will have in setting a tuition that won't be challenged. Right now, we've done several calculations going from 90% to 70% to 50% based upon what happened this past year. It's going to be difficult, even at 50% tuition, for us to be able to really function coming into July. We're still looking at a severe deficit of operational revenue come July 1. So I think the fix is going in the right way, but I think it would have worked better if we had not already gone into a situation where we've drained all of our reserves.
And also transportation. Your thoughts on transportation? You wanted to kind of jump in. Dale was nipping at the question there.
I was just going to ask about the fact that transportation was now made voluntary and what the reasoning was in the legislature with that. What was the debate?
Well, it was primarily in the Senate bill. The House bills all had transportation included. I think the Senate felt that it would save money to the sending district, that they didn't have to pay transportation costs, which are pretty significant when you're sending kids out to, in Normandy's case, out to Francis Howell, and in Riverview's case, to Melville and Kirkwood. So I think that was the point of the Senate version. I feared that it was going to cause a lot of students who are going to those schools right now, who are transferring now, to cause them not to be able to find a way out to those schools.
Well, I want to ask you if the conversation includes, and maybe we can see our map that we had earlier, if that's possible. I want to know how much of the conversation is about the region as a whole, at the state level, and all of the different spheres you all are working in, because this could easily affect the larger school district of St. Louis Public Schools soon. Sure. And what does this mean? What does Normandy not being accredited mean to our region's economy? What does all of this mean for all of us?
Well, let me say something about the transportation piece. I mean, if you look at what's happened with what most of the districts have done with the tuition money they've received from Normandy, it's nothing. So to act as if there's no monetary answer for transportation, I think that's false. Right now, you have several districts that could be taking money out of the tuition money that they've received and use that for transportation. Again, we have maybe 3 districts that have used money from the tuition payments to actually hire more staff. The rest, that money is going into their general revenue. It's not being used to hire additional teachers, additional resource reading specialists, math specialists, or anything like that. So
folks from the Department of Education have publicly said they consider it a windfall for the receiving districts.
That's true. That's very true.
Okay, so the larger question, is that part of the conversation? What's at stake for everyone here?
Well, I think if we look at what happens with Normandy, Normandy sort of acts as a canary in the coal mine from the standpoint of if you have a region where you are neglecting communities and you're not trying to make sure that, again, that you're using collective impact models to make sure that you are stabilizing families, addressing issues around mobility, addressing issues around poverty, workforce development. If you look at parents in Normandy, many of the parents of our enrolled students, they're not unemployed, they're underemployed. So we've got to figure out ways to get them into true workforce investment programs that are going to make sure that their jobs are going to be good middle class jobs. That's going to be a huge issue in terms of really turning around community.
Okay, can you guys explain? I know there's one thing when we talk about fixing schools, we think about the right teachers, the right principals, the right superintendents, the right instructional plan. I keep hearing about wraparound services, right? Community schools, things that go beyond the classroom. What are we talking about when we talk about wraparound services and how important that is? What exactly is that?
Well, wraparound services, it's taking some of those social services that families need and embedding them into the school and rebuilding that idea of the school as a community center. And so we have charter schools that have a health clinic at the school or have a staff of social workers available to the families. And it's creating that community center that while my child's in school, if I need health services, if my child needs health services, it's all happening in the same place. It's all the same people who are really devoted to my child.
Sometimes when I ask the same question 3 times, it's not a good question. So let me ask you a slightly different way. Not talking about any of the progress or however else you might characterize the St. Louis Public Schools, there are some legal issues still playing out that may open up St. Louis Public Schools to transfer if they are not accredited. They're not unaccredited either right now. So I'm just curious, what could the larger implications be on a very practical level if that were to happen to a larger district? And what are the implications to the region as we stand right now?
Well, at the first trial, or the most recent trial, on the transfer law, there was a study that, and at that time St. Louis was still unaccredited. The study said there would be thousands of students who would leave, and I believe one of the estimates was more students would transfer to Clayton than Clayton had resident students. So not only would the St. Louis Public Schools, I believe by the estimates, they would cost them hundreds of millions of dollars, but some of the receiving districts, it would cost them a lot of money to put new facilities in place. So,
is that a concern when you're talking about this? Or
Sure. I mean, it's those of us who've been around this area for as many years as we have know that St. Louis Public School System has been sending students out to the county for 32 years under the VTS program, or the VIC program now, the DSEG program. So St. Louis County school districts have been receiving students from St. Louis Public for a long time, and right now the tuition rate is $7,200 across the board. So, and that, according to the superintendents that I've talked to, is more than enough to educate those kids. So back to your point, that's why we tried to lower the tuition rate in the House bill and get it into the overall bill. But as far as St. Louis Public going unaccredited, again, they were unaccredited in 2006. And then they became provisionally accredited. The SAB was put in place back in 2007, so they've been under the provisions of the 1993 law per se since that time, and I think they're making progress. Under this bill that we just passed, though, if the governor lets it become law, the number of students that would transfer out would greatly lessen from the 15,000 that was quoted in that study.
Just a few seconds left. When might we see some change with this current situation we're looking at? Is there a timeline of any kind that we're looking at here? I'll open up to the reporters as well. Do you expect any change by the time school starts?
well, it's going to depend greatly on what the governor does with 493. I mean, if he signs it, there's going to be a lot of change. If he doesn't sign it, then you've got to see what the state does with this new Normandy Schools Collaborative. At this point, they haven't determined whether or not it's unaccredited or accredited, and that's supposed to happen next month. If it's accredited, then Normandy students living there won't be allowed to transfer all those. The rules may be that they can stay in the schools where they are now, but no new ones could transfer. A lot of the uncertainty is still there, not only about 493, but about what's going to happen in Normandy.
And 2015, when the new accreditation numbers kick in, after 3 years of the accreditation numbers, that's when the city can lose accreditation. That's when other places could become provisionally accredited. I think that's when this is really going to hit this region and this state.